Kansas City Sports Update Studios. Welcome to Kingdom Radio, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. Brought to you by Arrowhead Update. Join Kris and Richard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Player FM, CastBox, and all third-party applications. Check us out on Facebook platforms such as Kansas City Sports Update and Arrowhead Update. And if you cannot find us there, Google or search Kingdom Radio and Kansas City Chiefs, and you will find us. Welcome to the Kingdom. Kingdom.
Welcome to Kingdom Radio. I'm your host, Richard Smith, and with me, as always, I have my senior NFL analyst and co-host, Kris Chavez. Kris, we've got a lot to discuss tonight, with this Broncos game and the significance it has to the season, and also some weather bearing down on Kansas City that we should touch base on. But, Kris, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm getting really amped up for this game. As the hours pass, I'm getting more and more excited. And it's only Saturday.
Yes. And look, we've got the Denver Broncos tomorrow at noon, Arrowhead. There is predicted to be 3 to 5 inches of snow, and I'll kind of let Kris hop into that a little bit more. What's the weather looking like? Because this is always a factor in Kansas City in December, and tomorrow it just so happens that weather is going to creep up and will have an impact on the game.
Well, as you said, we're predicting snow flurries, snow accumulation throughout the game, anywhere between 3 to 5 inches. The high tomorrow is expected to be a high of 29 degrees, and so that's going to drastically affect the game. I think that it's going to make the game more of a running game as opposed to a passing game, just because receivers are going to have a hard time seeing the ball in the air for long stretches. So we're going to probably see a lot of short and intermediate passes, and we're probably going to end up seeing a huge shift into a running game from both sides.
And, and it could very well be a run-heavy game, especially with the snow. But Patrick Mahomes has proven that he can fling the ball around in the elements. And this is, this is a big game also for Drew Lock, who's really been impressive. His first 2 starts going 2-0 with 443 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And Kansas City's really got to focus in on him because, I'm not going to speak too soon, and I don't want to give this kid any more credit than he deserves. But it looks as though that Denver might have themselves a quarterback. But this is also what Osweiler did as well. So I don't want to jump out there too soon. I'm never on the Broncos bandwagon, period. But especially with quarterbacks, they're going to have to show me a lot more than 2 games for me to be impressed with Drew Lock.
While I agree with you, and this, we need to see more tape on him to really have a true judge or make a true judgment on him. Mm-hmm. What I've seen from him has been pretty impressive. He'll drop back, and especially in this last game against Houston, he was willing to throw the long ball. But when he's getting pressured, he'll pull the ball down and he'll take off and he'll run with it, right. Which is going to mean that we're going to be seeing a completely different offense than when we faced the Broncos last time against Joe Flacco.
Right.
Joe Flacco stood back there and just took hit after hit after hit. And Drew Lock, he's going to be running around. He's going to be making things happen. This is going to be a very interesting game.
I feel like the biggest key for the Chiefs' defense going down the stretch here, besides that they finally gelled, and you can tell that they've gelled, is the speed. And I think that's a huge asset for Kansas City is how much speed they have across the board because, we're eliminating plays and, we're shortening plays just by the dynamic of getting to the ball faster. So, as long as we have some type of spy on him, I figure it's, all's go when it comes to the defense, as usual. So, I don't know. What's your take on that? Because the speed factor definitely, is a scenario that the Chiefs can utilize in their favor.
Yeah, so because he's still new and young, he's still going to be making some mistakes. When he gets pressured, he tends to throw the ball into tight coverages. When his routes have been, what's the word I'm looking for? The timing has been messed up on the routes. Mm-hmm. He stares down his receivers. And the way that our secondary has been playing over the last several games, you can tell that their communication and their fluidity in their play has drastically improved from the beginning of the season. I think that our defense creates several, like 2 to 3, possibly even 4 turnovers from Locke in this game if they rely heavily on the passing game. But then you also look at the offensive line that is going to be missing their starting right guard and their starting right tackle.
I was just looking at that.
And the last time that we faced the Broncos and they had 2 starters out, it led to a absolute sieve of an offensive line. I think we're going to see very much, maybe not the sack totals, but I think the QB pressures. We're going to see a high amount of those in the game tomorrow.
And, and I was just taking a look at the Broncos depth chart as you were, saying this. And, it shows here that Austin Schlottman is the backup for left guard, center, and right guard. That's how tight they are, on the offensive line. So, I think Kansas City can absolutely attack this offensive line and get after Locke and make it a long day for him. And that's really all the Chiefs need to do. Stop the running game, make it a long day for Drew Locke. And that just here's another great thing is our corners and our defensive backs are doing their job. So it gives more confidence in Spags to send 8 guys, 9 guys in the box because he knows that, we have help over the top. And that's something the Chiefs haven't had the last few seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if Denver does go to a run-heavy attack tomorrow, that's going to play right into our hands because then we can stack 8, 9 in the box and truly shut down those running lanes and force them to try to throw the ball against our secondary. And if there is inclement weather, it's going to play right into our hands.
I couldn't agree more with you because this is a scenario where they have a banged-up interior offensive line, and that plays right into our hands, as far as our depth chart because, that's Chris Jones, Derek Nottie, we're going to get after them. And I feel like that if we stack the box all day long regardless, we'll be okay because it's going to be inclement weather. The offensive line's banged up. It's going to be run heavy. Even if they're not running, our corners are good enough to shut the pass game down. I really look for Spags to bring it all game long because there's no reason not to.
Yeah, and it's going to – what I want for the Chiefs to do is force Denver to continue trying to run the ball to stop us in the beginning. And that's what they're going to try to do because all season long, all of the NFL and the media has claimed that the Chiefs can't stop the run.
Right.
And yet in the last couple games, the Chiefs have held the opposing rushing attacks to under 100 yards. The leading rushers haven't broken 100. And so, obviously, we can play the run, and I want for Denver to try to run the ball against us.
Right.
Because if they're running the ball, they're not going to be moving the ball. They're going to have 3 and out. They're going to punt the ball. They're going to turn it over. Or the Chiefs offense gets the ball. They put up 7 points, put up 14 points, put up 21 points. Then the Broncos are going to have to throw the ball. And that's going to, again, go right into our hands. We can then just go after the quarterback and drop back in coverage.
Yes, and it makes their offense one-dimensional, and it makes our defensive scheme easier. And here's one thing that you and I touched base on the last time the Chiefs and the Broncos matched up is how deep the Broncos' running attack is. That's probably the deepest spot on their rosters at running back with Phillip Lindsay, Royce Freeman, and Devontae Booker. But the Chiefs really did a great job at that first game, and obviously I know that this is a completely different team like you had touched base on, I believe, before the show, because, this isn't the same Denver Broncos team, and Joe Flacco isn't the starting quarterback. But we did a great job of shutting down the run game and really getting pressure, on Denver all game long. And that was against a healthy offensive line and a banged up Kansas City defense. So now we're going in there, pretty healthy for the most part. I would say we've lost a piece. I really hated to see, another injury come on, especially with the player that could have been, Defensive Player of the Year at Ogba. But I still think that we look better overall on our depth chart on defense compared to their offense. Even with Drew Lock coming on, all the pieces we've brought back, I feel like that we're in the right spot to just wreak havoc on Drew Lock all game long.
Yeah, and it's going to be you just got me on this kick of it's going to be a completely different game, because this was also the game where Patrick Mahomes got knocked out because of the kneecap.
Oh, yes, you're right.
And we ultimately we beat them with Matt Moore.
Yes.
And we ended up throwing the ball a lot more than I really thought we were going to, even after the injury. But Shady was our leading rusher in the game with 12 attempts for 64 yards. Denver rushed the ball 21 times and had a total of 71 yards.
Right.
And so we very much controlled their running game in this game.
And we can do it again.
I want to say that we're going to do very much the same thing.
And here's the thing also is this is a head game now in the AFC West. Let's be honest, Kris. Let's take it to a point where the Chiefs have been the most winning team inside their division out of any team in any division of football in the last 5 years. And there comes, a certain powerhouse mode with that. And when a team like the Chiefs plays a Denver Broncos or Raiders or Chargers, every one of those teams, of course we have a target, but they know you have to play your A game against Kansas City and nothing less. And I don't think we've seen Drew Lock under the type of pressure that the Chiefs can put him under. He's played the Chargers and he's played the Texans. And don't get me wrong, they both have good defenses. They do. But I just... It's Arrowhead. It's December. The Chiefs don't lose into December, number one. And it's snowing. Drew Lock's never been to Arrowhead. Drew Lock grew up in Kansas City. He's from the Kansas City area, and this will be his first time coming back to the area as a starting quarterback. Unfortunately, it's for the Denver Broncos, but this is almost a homecoming for Lock, too. But is the environment too big for a quarterback like Drew Lock? That's my question, Kris. Is it too big for him right now, this platform?
I would be extremely impressed if it wasn't too big for him. You have a rookie starting in his third game in Arrowhead in December with the team's playoff hopes on the line. Mathematically, Denver still has an extremely slight chance to make the playoffs right now.
Right.
And so the Broncos are going to have a ton of pressure on them, and even more so on Locke, to be on point in this game and to lead them to a victory. And, I mean, it's going to be a huge pressure cooker of a situation for him, and I don't think that he's going to be ready for all of that to come on him all at once.
Right. I agree. And this is one of those scenarios where this can be a make or break game for Drew Lock and his confidence. We really haven't seen him like you said, we don't have any film on Drew Lock, and I think that's a difference maker right now, and that's why he's having so much success. This is a kid that I'm telling you, he's doing well right now. He is 450 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But when it really comes down to it, wait till people hone in on his skill and strengths and weaknesses, and then we'll see the real Drew Lock.
And that was actually something that Honey Badger was saying all week in practice, because as an Arizona Cardinal, he had the same experience going up against the backup for the Steelers at the time. I can't remember his name, but he ended up going out there and throwing for like 300 some odd yards, 2 touchdowns, and they beat the Cardinals.
Right.
But all week long, the Cardinals hadn't taken him very seriously because, he's a backup, he's this. Landry Jones, that's the guy.
Yes, I was trying to think of it, yeah.
He hasn't done anything, blah, 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 blah. We're just going to go out there and we're going to show this dude what's up. And it ended up being the other way around, where the Cardinals got blown out. Honey Badger is now stepping up and being the leader on the defense that he is telling the entire defense, don't take this guy lightly.
Right.
Yeah, he's a rookie, but we have to be on our A game for this guy. And having that experience and that leadership is just another monumental feat for our defense and wealth of knowledge for them. And I think that we come out in this game victorious. I think it's going to be a close game because of everything put together. But I think that Honey Badger is going to be one of the reasons why. Whether it's his leadership or his on-the-field play, he's going to have an impact on this game for sure.
And he's a smart player. And I don't know if Chiefs Kingdom knows this, but against New England, he made a phenomenal play, and then he pointed over to the New England sideline, and then he pointed to his head, and he's like, I'm catching you. I'm smarter than you, and I know what you're doing. And I feel like that 2 weeks of film on Drew Lock is just enough for Kansas City to be able to hone in and take advantage of a few of his weaknesses and expose his larger ones. Because if you can get him feeling uncomfortable, that will be the determining factor on whether or not this kid is really a starting quarterback in the NFL or coming out on fire like most other quarterbacks due to the scenarios that you and I are talking about right now. So it's yes, he's a quarterback though. Absolutely, the Chiefs do not take him lightly. But if they don't, and they're not going to, we're going to be just fine. And I'm going to touch base on something that you just talked about, Kris, which is the leadership aspect with the Honey Badger. And what I love about this is there's different tiers of leadership throughout the defense. Starting from the coaching staff, going down through the players, in the secondary, in the linebacking core, and on the defensive line. And the linebacking core, it's there's not really your dominant, this guy is the leader. But there are some guys out there, let's see, Raglan, Lee, a few of those guys know what they're doing and have some leadership skills. But the defensive line, obviously, Chris Jones is the leader. But it's nice to have that leadership on the defensive side of the ball again.
Yeah, and we touched on that all preseason long as well, about how every tier of the defense has a leader. And the coaching staff sets that tone, but then the players took on that same persona as well. And it's finally paid off. It started with the first Denver game, where the defense finally started to gel and come together. And every week after that point, they took step after step after step to the point where they're currently playing at a Super Bowl caliber level.
Right.
We just need the offense to bring it together so that they can be on that same page too. But I love what I'm seeing from the team as a whole right now.
It's a drastic improvement from 5 weeks ago. We'll put it that way. And so here's My thing about this game is we absolutely have got to lock down on defense, and that has been our bugaboo and the kind of monkey on our back all season long. And it seems like every time that there's a player that comes to the board, we feel like we need to pick him up. Including these two names that just got released here the last few days, and Janoris Jenkins and Terrell Suggs. But here's the thing, and Kris, we're going to touch base on this because you and I had really gone into depth about this, and we've come to kind of the same conclusion, is you can't keep bringing pieces into a team this deep into a season. This is the time where our team has gelled together, and to make a push in the playoffs and towards the Super Bowl, we have to keep the same pieces to the puzzle. You can't keep adding pieces at this point. The team is a team now, no matter what, and bringing new pieces in is just going to throw off the foundation of what's been built. And so, Kris, kind of talk to Chiefs Kingdom, tell them a little bit about why should we not pick up a player like Janoris Jenkins, Terrell Suggs, or anybody for that matter at this point in the season.
Okay, so looking at both of these guys separately really quickly. Mm-hmm. Janoris Jenkins played underneath Steve Spagnuolo defense with the New York Jets.
Right.
He's familiar with the system. He is not familiar with the players that he'll be playing with on this defense. And it's going to, as we saw with the Chiefs defense already this year, it took them several weeks to figure out how to communicate and how to predict what each other are going to be doing on any given play in any given situation or scenario. You bring in a player like Janoris Jenkins, who is a starter caliber cornerback, and you're going to be messing up that camaraderie that the secondary has. And on the flip side, you look at Terrell Suggs. He is a sack master. At 37 years old, he still has 5 sacks this season.
Right.
And as the season has gone on, he's lost more and more playing time due to injuries, illnesses, whatnot. And the Cardinals let him go because they want to move on from him, and they were giving their younger players more and more playing time.
Now,
Terrell Suggs is going to come in, and he's going to add what to our defensive line? He's not going to replace Alex Okafor.
No.
He's not going to replace Emmanuel Ogbah.
No.
He's definitely not going to replace Frank Clark. And so we don't really have a need for him on our defensive line. We have tremendous depth at our defensive line, and I honestly think that that's probably our deepest position, and on defense is our D-line.
Oh, yeah.
We don't need to add another piece there.
No, and then here's the thing also is, when you think about bringing in a player like Jenkins, and then you also put into perspective that, he played on the New York Giants when Spags coached the defense. Well, that tells me that Jenkins is old. And so when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, we really have a youthful team. And this point in the season, it does not make sense to bring in a cornerback, throw him on a defense, and expect, the corner across the field or the safety to have the trust in him like they did the player that he replaced. That's something that's built. You can't just come on a team and everything be perfect and, right from the gate. And that's what we would need out of a trade right now. That's why the Chiefs brought Spencer Ware back, is to get somebody familiar with the system, to bring him back, to help us with this playoff push. But, that's a whole other scenario than going and looking at Janoris Jenkins or Terrell Suggs, and neither of those make sense for Kansas City, especially with the scenario that we have 18 free agents to tender to, after this season is over.
Well, and to also touch on what you just brought up with Spencer Ware, he's familiar with this offensive line. They're familiar with him.
Right.
They understand how to block for him.
Right.
And he understands how to read their blocks. And so that's a very different scenario than bringing in an unknown one like a Janoris Jenkins or Terrell Suggs.
What's the injury report looking like? Have you heard anything about that?
For the Chiefs, I haven't heard anything at all. For the Broncos, they have a season-high 17 players listed.
Oh, wow.
Who are either on IR or who are injured in some way, shape, or form. The majority of it's on the defensive side, but they're going to be losing their starting left defensive end, DeMarcus Walker. He's out for the game. His backup is questionable, Jermont Jones. They just brought back Kyle Pecco this week, and then the backup defensive end for the right side, Adam Gott, says he's out. Their third cornerback, Cyrus Jones, is out for the game. And then on the offensive side, like I said earlier, their starting right guard and right tackle are both out for the game.
Which is great for the Chiefs, but our injury report is long as well. We have 12 players on our injury report, and as it stands right now, Rashad Fenton and Morris Claiborne are the only ones ruled out. Frank Clark is questionable with his illness. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, and I'm actually excited to hear about that because Frank Clark had dropped something like 12 pounds since Monday with this stomach virus or illness that he has going on, and he can't get rid of it. And I'm really hoping that we figure out what's going on with that because that's a huge investment, and that's a scary scenario. And overall, for his health, as a person, I hope he's okay. Damian Williams is reported questionable. So you think that'll drop Spencer Ware down to the 4th spot in the depth chart?
You know what? Honestly, I think that's probably going to drop Darwin Thompson down. Why they would keep Spencer Ware at the 3rd spot is because of his pass protection ability. I don't like that move, but I would understand why they're doing it, especially against the Denver Broncos. If they do that next week against Chicago, honestly, I think that would make a lot of sense then as well. But I'm just at a point where I want to see what Darwin Thompson can add to the table. And maybe we have to wait until week 17 against the Chargers in order to see it. But even then, it'll be a matter of, do we have the number 2, the number 1 spot locked up? Are we still playing for playoff seeding? And if we are, we probably won't see Darwin Thompson very much this year. And we might have to wait until next regular season in order to truly see what he can do. But on that note, I've really liked what we have seen from him and his progression since preseason.
And that's what I don't understand about this scenario is I feel like that there's other factors that are going into him, continuing to be on the bottom of the depth chart when it's obvious that every time he touches the ball and he's on the field, you see this other level at the running back position for the Chiefs. And I don't quite understand it. And it's just, I'm at a loss for words.
Can I jump in really quickly? Because I love what you're bringing up right there.
Yes.
Having Darwin Thompson on the field, in the backfield, it brings an energy to the team.
Yes.
And in that drive a couple weeks ago where he had almost every single carry, it felt like the Kareem Hunt Chiefs.
Yes, it did.
It just had that other edge to their offense.
Yes.
And we since Kareem Hunt left, our running backs have not had that effect on the offense.
Right.
But when Darwin Thompson came in there, it felt like it was back.
Yes, and I don't understand why we're not going towards that. It doesn't make any sense. And he doesn't put the ball on the ground either.
Yeah, I think he dropped one, but he recovered that one. And then I think he he dropped one easy pass that he should have had. But it's not a matter of, it's not a LaShawn McCoy situation where every time he's touching the ball, you're concerned about, especially with his smaller hands, hold on to the ball, hold on. Like, he's doing what he needs to do. He's double gripping that ball,
yes,
and he's still powering over guys.
Yes, and in my mind, that's hard to do as well. That takes away from your momentum, when you're double gripping the ball. But he's a truck, when he gets down low, he could just about run through anybody. And it's crazy because he's a smaller back, but he's got plenty of heart and drive. And it just, I'm ready to see the Chiefs cut him loose. It's time. If we have any type of secret weapon, like, it seems like he's the guy.
Yeah, and especially at this point in the season, we definitely need for him to get used to the NFL speed. And in the games that he has been seeing touches and seeing the field, I've liked what I've seen overall. And I think that he needs more time to see the field, to see the defenses, and to get acclimated to the speed. His speed, his physical ability, it has him ready to go that route. It's just a matter of making the mental leap. And that's only going to happen with him being out on the field and seeing it. And going into the playoffs, if he's going to be a guy we're going to utilize in the playoffs, he needs to be seeing time. He needs to be seeing the field now.
Yes.
So that he can be ready.
It's just, and I feel like he has the mentality. He's a beast in the weight room. He has relentless work ethic, and I'm blown away by the stubbornness of the coaching staff to not give this kid a chance. I'm sick of watching 30-yard rushing games a week. Why not give this kid a chance? It makes no sense. None. The running back by committee is garbage for Kansas City, and something's got to happen, and he's the spark. So why isn't he being cut loose? And why aren't we giving Anthony Sherman the ball more?
Especially on the third and shorts, fourth and shorts.
It seems like Anthony Sherman's getting paid to be on special teams, and he could be clearing holes for our running backs. But in the same respect, Andy Reid runs that complex offense, and heck, you never know what formation you're going to get. But it's time. It's time to cut Darwin loose.
Yeah.
So the Chiefs are sitting at 9-4. Denver is sitting at 5-8. This really is an extremely important game for Kansas City, especially if we want to lock in the 2 seed in the playoffs and have a bye week. But I will say this. Outside of the remainder of the Chiefs' schedule, the Broncos, the Bears, and the Chargers, the team to really watch if you're a Chiefs fan is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because tomorrow the Pittsburgh Steelers play the Buffalo Bills. And then in Week 17, the Pittsburgh Steelers play the Baltimore Ravens. So both of these teams obviously have huge implications on the seeding that the Chiefs will get in the playoffs. So keep an eye out for Pittsburgh. That's a team to watch for. Because that's gonna, they hold a lot of, barriers to us getting to where we want to be.
Yeah, and there's also a very strong chance that we could be seeing them in the first round as well if we end up getting the 3rd seed. And so, like you said, they're definitely going to be a team to watch over the next several weeks. They're going to help us out, they're going to hurt us, and they're going to be a team that we need to start scouting and being ready for the playoffs.
And that's the thing, too, is as much as the Steelers can help us, if the Steelers beat Buffalo and they beat Baltimore, they're going to play their way right into the playoffs. And then they're a team we have to look out for. This is the exciting thing about the AFC this year is we have 3 weeks left in the season. There's only 2 teams that have locked in a spot on the AFC side. The rest is wide open. Anything can happen. I mean, legitly, you were talking about the odds of, some teams still sneaking into the playoffs, like the Broncos. The odds are just as heavy for a team like the Patriots, who ultimately could lose out and not make the playoffs, which would be crazy, but that's still a scenario as well. So
they could even lose 2 of their next 3 and still miss the ball.
And it's crazy to think the New England Patriots would not make the playoffs, but that would be awesome, and that could happen. That realistically could happen. So this is an exciting time, but the Chiefs have to keep winning. We've got a product on the field that can beat anybody, and we should feel confident. We should feel confident at home, and we should feel confident against the AFC West. And with that being said, we talked about earlier, the Chiefs own the West. So, Kris, with it being a divisional game, in years past, we would say these are tough games. They're divisional games. They're the toughest games we play on our schedule. But as it has played out, they're almost lock-in wins for us. Obviously, we don't take Denver lightly, but what is the implications of it being an AFC West game with the thought that we could possibly lose this game?
It's definitely a scary scenario, and I hate to admit it, but it's definitely a scenario that could rear its ugly head in this game. There's a lot of unknowns here.
Yes.
It's a new offense, a new defense from the Broncos, and to touch on that, their secondary has been sneakily good this year. They don't get a lot of credit, but they're doing fantastic. Justin Simmons is probably one of the top safeties in the league right now. Nobody knows about him. Chris Harris has been doing a pretty good job this year. The Denver Broncos, both of these teams are coming into this game as if they've never seen each other before, because the Chiefs team that went into that earlier game, it's not the same team. We have a true defense that is solid right now.
Yes.
Now, our offense is going to be very different, or have a different feel to it as well. And then, like I was just saying, the Broncos are going to be completely different too. And then you throw in the weather on top of that. This is going to be a huge game.
We have touched base a lot on the defense, and we really haven't talked about the offense too much because, this is the time of year that is coming down to where our defense is carrying us, and it's crazy how we shifted gears. But we need to really talk about this offense because offense is sputtering, and it's no secret that we haven't produced like we did last season. You can't expect a team to put up 42 points 2 seasons straight, but we're getting victories. Here's my thing, Kris, and I've been wanting to ask you this. Is it just me, or is Mahomes just hurt? I mean, he's been beat up all season long. He's playing hurt. He's being tough. Mahomes is beat up. He's going to go back to what he was before, but he's a little off right now, and you can see that. I don't see that sticking around or staying. But am I wrong to say that Mahomes is hurt and is playing hurt and is not the Mahomes that we know?
I will say that he's absolutely playing hurt. As we saw last week against New England, he hurt his hand in the first quarter.
Right.
And played the rest of the game with that hurt hand.
Yep.
He was still slinging that ball.
Yes, he was.
And he still looked good doing it. He just didn't look good afterwards because he's sitting there holding his hand and cupping it. But he definitely looked all the better at quarterback than Brady did in the game last week.
And I agree.
He's had 3 injuries that we know of that have drastically affected him all year long, and yet he still put up a 3,000-plus yard season. And I would realistically, I would say that it's not him that's looking bad. I mean, he's making throws. He's making, I'd say probably about 85 to 90% of his throws are accurate.
Mm-hmm.
They're where they need to be.
Right.
The receivers aren't catching the ball.
Yeah. It's been...
You've got Sammy Watkins who's dropping catches.
Yes.
And I hate to drop this guy under the bus a little bit.
Travis
but
Kelce
dropping passes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hill hasn't been as much, but he hasn't been healthy either.
Demarcus Robinson dropping passes.
And has he even caught a pass since week 3?
I don't know what he's doing.
He has completely disappeared. I don't know what's going on with him.
Right.
Hardman, I don't think he's dropped a pass, but he's definitely not seeing as many looks, targets, or is getting as much playing time as a guy who has been as productive as he's been should be getting.
You know, I also feel like the Chiefs have been playing a little bit of small ball. And that's all right. We've been playing the get it out of your hand early, dump it off front out of the backfield, a short little cut route. We've been playing small ball. We really haven't been taking the deep shots like we had typically done last season and early on this season. So do you think the lack of production is just the different style of offense that Big Red is running at the moment?
Yes, and I think that we ultimately have to run this style of an offense because of our offensive line.
Right.
But while Eric Fisher was out, we had Cam Irving back there.
Right.
And God, that was awful.
Yes.
And then we had injuries all along our interior line.
Right.
And I think that some of those injuries are still lingering, and the guys are trying to play through. But I would personally start Wisniewski in there.
Yeah,
let
done
him
great.
get beat up for a game or two, and let whomever needs the time off, let them sit for a little bit.
Right. Completely agree. Here's something that I would like to think is, with everything that's happened with the Chiefs this season, that when Week 17 rolls around and the Chiefs head into the playoffs, the Chiefs will probably be the most gelled that they'll be all year round, and in my mind also as healthy as they have been, and probably get past some of those lingering injuries, and we might have the strongest Chiefs team in the playoffs that we've had all season. What are your thoughts on that?
I have to agree, because while the defense is improving, and that's the other crazy thing, is that while they are definitely the stronger aspect of our team right now, they aren't even playing at 100%.
Right.
They still have room to grow and to improve. Our defense or our offense is certainly not at their best, but we know what they're capable of doing on any given Sunday, and we haven't seen that at all this year for whatever myriad of reasons. But they could absolutely just flip a switch and turn it on, and maybe that's another aspect, is maybe Andy Reid is trying to save the offense from overworking themselves and trying to be as close to 100% as possible for the playoffs.
Which will be great, because, this is a reserved offense, and you can tell. And I think that you could be right. Like, we're going to cut loose and really bring out the guns towards the end. But this is Andy Reid football. When you feel like you don't know why he's doing the things that he is, there's reason behind it. There's reason behind everything, Big Red does. And at this point, if I'm confused as to what the Chiefs coaching staff is doing, that's a really good thing, as far as moving forward, because that makes us makes the Chiefs ultimately unpredictable. And I don't want to say unpredictable, but there will be facets of the game that you don't know what's coming with the Chiefs. And there have been some mystery things and pieces going on with this Chiefs team all season long on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball. And Kris, we could really get it all clicking and going together, for this playoff run and just be nasty, be a nasty, nasty team and just be scary for any opponent. You there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is, regardless of what our... Yeah, sorry, I think there's a bit of a lag. Regardless of our seeding in the playoffs, we are going to be one of, if not the most scariest teams that any team is going to face.
Right.
Because we have a very good defense. Yes. We have a very capable offense.
Yes. And
if either side is performing at, let's say, 75%, mm-hmm. That's most other teams 100%. We should be terrorizing teams.
Yeah.
And as we're getting into a path where we should be, quote unquote, peaking, and they know that and they know what we're capable of, they're scared. They just won't admit it.
Yeah. It's one of those scenarios when you try to prepare for a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. How do you prepare for all that talent? It's probably the most demanding job, for any coaching staff in a while to prepare for a team like this Chiefs team this season. So I think we'll be all right. So let's move on to predictions here, Kris. What do you think we're going to do here tomorrow? It's a noon game, Arrowhead Stadium. Keep in mind the weather: 3 to 5 inches of snow, 20-degree weather. Kris, it's all yours. What do you think?
My prediction is we destroy them. So the one other thing that I want to throw out there is the Broncos have been using a lot of dual tight end sets.
Yes.
And honestly, I feel like that plays right into our hands because then we only have to have two corners on the field at any given time.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to focus on utilizing a nickel cornerback on a third wide receiver.
Oh my God! And we have so much speed too. Oh yeah, that plays right into the Chiefs' hands. Keep going.
Okay, so the one person who we need to focus on, there's two aspects that we need to focus on their offense. Is Cortland Sutton, who I leave that with the cornerbacks. They can shut him down.
Mm-hmm.
But Noah Fant,
mm-hmm.
he's really come on lately, and when he doesn't drop the ball, he's an absolute weapon for them.
He's a lot. He plays a lot like Travis Kelce, a lot like him.
Yeah. Yes. And what I think we need to do is we need to put a Rashad Breeland on him because of the long arms, the bigger body, that he can potentially affect Fant's catch radius and his ability to have a clean catch.
Right.
And then we just put a linebacker on Howerman or Fumagalli, the other tight ends, whoever else they trot out on the field. And we should be able to control their offense. Sutton's going to get his, we know that. But if we can limit to how much of an effect he has on the game, and we're all spades. Going into my prediction based on all of that, I think the Chiefs pull this out. I'm going to say 27-17.
27-17, and I like that. I also like, all those dimes that you just dropped. And yes, Noah Fant, he really is the weapon that the Broncos have been looking for, but he's questionable right now. So here's my thing. When you talk about the double set tight end look and you talk about our secondary, to me, that tells me that our safeties, one of our safeties should have a huge day. I don't care if it's Thornhill, or Honey Badger, but one of them will have a huge day tomorrow because there, you laid the map out perfectly. That somebody's going to be wide open every play, and it's going to be fun because Spags is going to have that extra chess piece to do what he wants with. So
yeah, and like we saw last week with Honey Badger peeling off, fooling the quarterback and peeling off and getting an interception. No, that was 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. Just having that extra piece that he can throw around and utilize wherever, and make the quarterback think that the piece isn't going to be there, but it really is, or even vice versa. It's going to be a huge, huge component to our defensive performance tomorrow.
Yeah, I feel like that. It's going to be a lot more fun than we think because, all right, think of everything that we laid out. I'm going to summarize their whole offense that you and I had laid out. The double tight end set, it frees up a defensive player. Their offensive line being banged up, that frees up another player realistically, especially with how much talent we have on the defensive line. Then we go towards the elements with a Drew Lock quarterback who's only played 2 NFL games as a starting quarterback, never been to Arrowhead, never played in the snow, never played against the Chiefs. This is going to be, and here's, the Chiefs are a hard-hitting team. We bring the lumber. This isn't, I don't think that the Texans and Chargers have the firepower and the man strength that the Chiefs have. It's a different level of competition when you play the Kansas City Chiefs at this point. And it's something that this team is not prepared for at all. Even Noah Fant, he's a new piece. He's not ready for the Chiefs. None of these players are. This is a semi-young team. And that's what the Broncos needed to do. They have Cortland Sutton. They have Phillip Lindsay. Those are their veterans. On every other level, with what they bring to the table, it's playing right into our scheme. All of it, every bit of it. Kris, would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's going to be a long day for Locke. I truly believe that. That's the key element. The key element. And we have this. So here's my prediction. With all of that, with 2 to 5 inches of snow, Patrick Mahomes is our quarterback. We're 9-4. Denver's 5-8. It means a lot to us right now in the playoffs. It's December as well. Kansas City has always played well in December. Andy Reid is our coach. I'm going to say this one's going to be a little bit more lopsided than what you had said, Kris. And I'm going to go with the Chiefs are going to take this one 38 to 13. We're going to go off, and you're going to see the offense that that we should have been seeing all year long, and it's going to be crazy because it's going to be in a snow game, but you're still going to see Mahomes winning the ball around. As long as the wind isn't terrible, Mahomes will still throw the ball, and we'll be all right. And as long as our wide receivers don't drop the ball. So that's my prediction. That's a bold statement, but I think the Chiefs can handle it. So, Kris, do you have anything to add?
I have one more thing to add, and this is going to be another prediction-esque sort of thing.
Okay.
I think that Travis Kelce hits his 1,000 yards in the game tomorrow and becomes the first tight end in NFL history to have 4 consecutive years of 1,000 yards receiving.
11 yards away. He's definitely going to do it. And what better way to do it at home in December against the division rival Denver Broncos? There's lots of records breaking when it comes to the Chiefs. We'll put it that way. And I also want to touch base. One more thing before I hop off here is Tony Gonzalez made the NFL All 100 players list, which is awesome. pretty disappointed to see that Derek Thomas did not make it. But given the talent pool of linebackers, it's a little bit different than a Tony Gonzalez. So I was really happy to see that. Congratulations, Tony Gonzalez. You do deserve that honor. You're possibly the greatest tight end to ever put on pads, and you did a lot of your damage here with the Kansas City Chiefs. So go to kckingdomradio.com. Also, go to the shop menu, go down and click Chiefs Apparel. That'll take you to the Fanatics page, and if you go through our link, it'll give you up to 66% off all Chiefs apparel. And Kris had the, lovely time of running through the Fanatics webpage last night or the night before. I'm not sure what night it was. Kris, kind of tell the fans a little bit about Fanatics. What did you think first time seeing Fanatics webpage?
There were so many things on that page: clothing, memorabilia, little doodads that they had that I didn't know that I needed, but I definitely want and need now.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kris, same goes to you. Go through the KC Kingdom Radio webpage if you go to Fanatics every single time. Also, Amazon. If you go to kckingdomradio.com and you scroll down on the homepage and you click on the history, winter apparel, or what is the other one? Shop. That'll take you to Amazon and take you to all the Chiefs apparel Amazon as well. We've got all kinds of cool stuff going on. Also, if you haven't listened to J.J. Burden episode, check out the J.J. Burden episode. That was a lot of fun, and we're going to try to get some more Chiefs players on the podcast, and I'd love to have him back on. Kris, I'd love to give you the chance to talk to JJ, to be honest. That would be great.
Yeah, it would be great. I just need to catch him on a time when I'm not in school.
Right. Okay, Kansas City. So check it out. We have the Broncos tomorrow. You've heard our analysis and our breakdown of this game and our predictions as well. We need to take care of this so we can move on to the Bears and then finish off Philip Rivers' career with a win over the Chargers in Week 17. So with that being said, have a great night, Kansas City. We appreciate you being with us, and we will have a post-game show Sunday night.
Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Chiefs.